First of all, we are going to read endometriosis. So, it is a chronic benign gynecological condition in which there is a growth ectopic endometrial tissue in sites other than the endometrial cavity. Okay, so basically what happens, normally endometrial tissue is lining the endometrial cavity. But if it is found somewhere else apart from the normal anatomical condition, normal anatomical location, then it will be termed as endometriosis. So basically, the endometriotic implants are composed of endometrial glands and stroma. So and they mimic, basically they are structurally similar to the normal endometrial tissue which is lining the endometrial cavity. So they are going to be responsive to our cyclical hormonal influences, what happens in each cycle, and it is a estrogen dependent condition. Although we are calling it benign condition, benign growth, but still it has got some invading property also, and it invades normal surrounding tissue. And it is a primarily disease of childbearing age group, extremely rare before menarche and disappears after menopause. So talking about epidemiology, so it affects between 6 to 20% of women with peak incidence at the age of 40. Why we are talking about age of 40? Because what happens, it is a gradually progressing disease in nature basically. So when it starts, it's not so severe enough to produce symptoms. So majority of patients, they remain asymptomatic. As the age advances, when it spreads widely and involves more structures, develops complications in form of endometriotic cyst and invasive lesions, adhesions, and scar formation, then it will lead to complication like pain and all. Then more commonly, patient represents towards the end of their reproductive life or around 40s. So with the menopause, natural history of endometriosis is a reduction of disease progression and invasion, which is usually accompanied by reduction of symptoms. Why does it happen? Because postmenopausal women, they have a reduced amount of estrogen in their blood level. So what happens? Because it is an estrogen dependent condition, so when there is less estrogen, there will be less growth of the tissue, and it will lead to reduction of her symptoms. Various risk factors like late marriages, rich and influent class groups, females and infertile female, genetically susceptible female, or who have history of familial endometriosis. So all such women are at higher risk of developing endometriosis. So talking about etiopathogenesis now, so in your book it has been given in detail. So we are going to discuss in very short. First of all, this is first theory was given in 1922 by Sampson. It is also known as implantation or transplantation theory. So what happens? There is reflux of menstrual endometrium through the fallopian tube and its subsequent implantation and growth on the pelvic peritoneum or surrounding structures. So what happens basically with each menstrual cycle, this regurgitation of the menstrual blood takes place through the tubal ostia, and it goes through the tube and it comes out through the fimbrial end, and the tissue gets deposited, the menstrual blood gets deposited in the pelvic cavity or pelvic structures. So 70 to 90% normal females, they experience this regurgitation of menstrual blood through the fimbrial end, but not all women develop endometriosis. So there are certain theories and hypotheses behind this etiology. So now this is a very now you can see here, this is a short video. Basically I'm showing you all to understand this theory. You can see here the menstrual blood is coming through the fimbrial end when the patient gets her menses, and there is gradual deposition of the tissue near the ovarian surface, and there is a formation of endometriotic, or we call as chocolate cyst in the ovary. When it goes, it causes invasion of ovarian tissue. So this is how the endometriosis develops. I hope you all can understand. So another theories have been described, like apart from this reflux of menstrual blood theory. So this was given by Mayer and Ivanovs in 1919. This is also known as induction theory. This is a coelomic metaplasia theory. So what happens? There are metaplastic changes in the embryonic cell rest of embryonic mesothelium, which are capable of responding to hormonal stimulation. So this leads to formation of endometriotic tissue or endometrial tissue in the pelvic peritoneum. Third theory was the metastatic theory by Helbins, because all these theories what we read till now, it can explain the occurrence of pelvic endometriosis, but for unusual site endometriosis, or we also call as this thing extra pelvic endometriosis or distant site endometriosis, so this theory can explain. So what happens, there is embolization of menstrual fragments through vascular or lymphatic channels, and it leads to launching of endometriosis at distant sites, including lungs also, in bladder, lungs, and umbilical scar, episiotomy scar. So this is how the tissue reaches to distant site and it starts proliferating. So genetic factors are also they also play a role in occurrence of endometriosis. 7 times greater risk have been explained if a first degree relative has been affected with endometriosis. Immunological factors, yeah, as I already I mentioned before, not all women who have retrograde menstruation, which normally takes place in 70 to 90% of women in each menstrual cycle, they don't develop endometriosis. There are certain group of female who are susceptible, who have got altered immune response, resulting into reduced clearance of viable endometrial cells from the cavity. I hope you all understood that normally if the patient had good immune function, it will lead to removal or destruction of all these viable endometrial cells who are coming through menstrual regurgitation of or retrograde menstruation into the pelvic cavity. So good immune response. Hello, I hope you all can
Yes,
see my
ma'am.
slides and can yeah, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So okay, and my voice is also clear to you all.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
ओके,
ma'am.
ठीक है, तुमको समझ में आ रहा है ना? जहाँ पे भी समझ में नहीं आएगा तो प्लीज स्टॉप मी, बिकॉज क्लास में फेस टू फेस और वर्चुअल में देयर इज अ बिग डिफरेंस. सामने तो आई कैन सी यू ऑल योर एक्सप्रेशंस दैट यू आर able to understand or not what I'm saying. So basically this immunological factor, when the patient has got competent immune function, it will lead to removal of all such endometrial cells from the cavity, and therefore even with the in the presence of retrograde menstruation there will be no endometriosis. But if the patient has got altered immune response, it will lead to reduced clearance and will lead to subsequent occurrence of endometriosis. And then let's talk about main primary problem what we face in cases of endometriosis is pain. So we have to understand why this pain happens in case of endometriosis. So what happens, these endometriotic this menstrual blood, it gets deposited over the pelvic structures or in the peritoneal cavity. So what happens with each menstrual cycle, this endometrium also behaves like a uterine endometrium, which is normally present. So what happens in the menstrual cycle, it gets shed off from the because of someone has to हेलो शशिकांत, हेलो.
Yes, ma'am.
हाँ तुम लोग ही हो
Yes,
ना?
ma'am. Sir.
मुझे लगा कि किसी के
मैं
दूसरे इसमें
मैं
चली गई
किसी
हूँ.
का अनम्यूट हो गया मैम.
हाँ समझ में आ गया मुझे, लोग
Yes,
अपने
ma'am.
घर के काम भी निपटा रहे हैं शायद साथ में बैठ के. ठीक है. तो क्या होता है बेसिकली, तुम लोग को समझ में आ रहा है ना कि मेंस्ट्रुअल ब्लड जो रहता है इट कम्स आउट फ्रॉम द फिम्ब्रिया. उसके बाद क्या होता है, इट गेट्स डिपॉजिटेड इन द पेल्विक कैविटी, जैसे पीओडी में चला गया, ओवरी के ऊपर चला गया, यूट्राइन सरफेस, यूट्रोसैक्रल्स, एंटीरियर कल्डीसेक, पोस्टीरियर कल्डीसेक. तो वहाँ पे जो ये टिश्यू रहता है, जैसे कि नॉर्मल मेंस्ट्रुअल साइकिल में होता है, टिश्यू हार्मोनल इन्फ्लुएंसेस की वजह से क्या होता है, शेड ऑफ होती है एंडोमेट्रियम, दैट कम्स आउट एज अ मेंस्ट्रुअल ब्लड. ठीक है. तो इसी में इस एंडोमेट्रिक जो एक्टोपिक एंडोमेट्रियल टिश्यू है, इसमें क्या होता है, इट इज ऑल्सो स्टार्ट्स ब्लीडिंग व्हेन द पेशेंट गेट्स अ मेंसेस. तो ये जब ब्लीडिंग शुरू होती है तो जो ब्लड रहता है, यू ऑल नो कि इट विल कॉज सम पेरिटोनियल इरिटेशन. सो जो लोकल पेरिटोनियल इरिटेशन होता है उसकी वजह से क्या होता है, रिलीज होता है, इन्फ्लेमेशन होता है वहाँ पे, लोकल पेरिटोनियल इन्फ्लेमेशन और टिश्यू इन्फ्लेमेशन विल लीड टू रिलीज ऑफ इन्फ्लेमेटरी साइटोकाइंस विच आर रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर पेन जनरेशन. इसके अलावा क्या होता है, एज आई टोल्ड यू अर्लियर कि दैट जो एंडोमेट्रियल टिश्यू रहता है, इट हैज गॉट स्टिल इट इज कॉल्ड एज बिनाइन प्रोलिफरेटिव ग्रोथ, बट इट हैज टेंडेंसी टू इन्वेड द टिश्यू, सराउंडिंग टिश्यू. तो जहाँ पे ये रहता है, अंडरलाइंग जो टिश्यू रहता है उसको ये इन्वेड करता है. इन्वेड करने से क्या होता है, समटाइम्स जो टिश्यू इन्वेजन की वजह से, इन्फ्लेमेशन की वजह से फाइब्रोसिस और ये सब रिस्पॉन्स आता है, उससे पेन हो सकता है बिकॉज ऑफ फाइब्रोसिस और थिकनिंग ऑफ द टिश्यू, बिकॉज ऑफ अधेजन फॉर्मेशन. और समटाइम्स व्हाट हैपेंस, इट में उसमें नर्व्स होती हैं, ऑब्वियसली देयर इज नर्व सप्लाई ऑल्सो इन द टिश्यू. सो न्यूरल इरिटेशन is also one of the theory behind the pain generation, pain associated with endometriosis. So this is the basically mechanism of endometriosis related pain. So neural irritation or invasion is the most popular theory amongst all theories which I told you. Tender nodular, so intensity of pain relates to depth of penetration and to the proximity or direct invasion of nerves. So now I can say that you all have understood why there is severe dysmenorrhea, why there is deep dyspareunia, why dyschezia. Dyschezia when there is involvement of rectovaginal septum by endometriosis. So it will lead to painful defecation. Deep dyspareunia and severe dysmenorrhea, it is all because of pelvic tissue irritation or pelvic cavity POD involvement with endometriosis. So patient will have pain. ओके, सो आई थिंक कि तुम लोगों को अभी तक का सारा समझ में आ रहा है. सो नाउ टॉकिंग अबाउट सब एसोसिएशन ऑफ सब फर्टिलिटी विथ एंडोमेट्रियोसिस. सब फर्टिलिटी अभी न्यू टर्म है, पहले वी यूज टू कॉल इट इनफर्टिलिटी. नाउ द पीपल आर कमिंग अप विथ लाइक वी कैन नॉट कॉल समवन की शी कैन नॉट बी फर्टाइल, सो द टर्म हैज कम सब फर्टिलिटी. सो सब फर्टिलिटी का एसोसिएशन कैसे होता है, वाई इट हैपेंस, इनफर्टिलिटी या सब फर्टिलिटी क्यों होता है एंडोमेट्रियोसिस में. सो बेसिकली व्हाट इट नॉर्मली इट टेक्स प्लेस इन केसेस ऑफ मॉडरेट टू सीवियर एंडोमेट्रियोसिस. What happens, we already read that there is adhesion formation. So what happens because of peritubal and peri-ovarian adhesion formation and disturbed, because of adhesion there is disturbed tubo-ovarian relationship which is very responsible for perfect ovum pickup. So ovum pickup ke time pe if the movement is not good, if the tubo-ovarian motility is hampered, so what will happen, there will be no ovum pickup. So first thing, ovum pickup nahi hoga to patient will have infertility. Secondly, what we have read about, there are certain factors of tubal blockage. It can be intratubal factor or it can be peritubal or extratubal factor. So what happens if there is adhesion formation around the tube, so it will cause extratubal type of tubal blockade. Okay, I hope you all are you have understood what what is my point. So this is the cause because why the patient develops infertility in background of endometriosis. This is the diagram showing, you can see here, this is uterus. You can see my arrowhead मार्कर दिख रहा है क्या तुमको? हाँ, अभी जहाँ पे मेरा एरो जो मैं पॉइंट कर रही हूँ, दिस इज द फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड द डायग्राम. दिस इज लैप्रोस्कोपिक व्यू. व्हेन वी आर डूइंग लैप्रोस्कोपी एंड वी आर सीइंग द पेल्विक कैविटी, तो यहाँ पे ये जो व्हाइट कलर का जो स्ट्रक्चर दिखता है, पर्ली व्हाइट स्ट्रक्चर, आर ओवरीज. ओके, एंड दिस स्ट्रक्चर इज, दिस इज बेसिकली पोस्टीरियर व्यू एंड दिस इज एंटीरियर व्यू. यहाँ पे जो दिख रहा है दिस इज ब्लैडर, येलोइश पार्ट है ना, ये जो है दिस इज फंडस ऑफ द यूट्रस, दीज आर द फैलोपियन ट्यूब्स. ओके, दिस इज पोस्टीरियर सरफेस ऑफ द यूट्रस, पोस्टीरियर सरफेस. और यहाँ पे जो नीचे दिख रहा है दिस स्ट्रक्चर यू कैन सी, दिख रहा है ना, ये वी जैसा दिख रहा है, इन्वर्टेड वी दिख रहा है ना, दिस इज यूट्रोसेक्रल का अटैचमेंट है टू द पोस्टीरियर सरफेस ऑफ द यूट्रस. और इन दोनों के बीच जो नीचे वाला जो एरिया है विच वी आर नॉट एबल टू सी because of this structure is like cul-de-sac or posterior cul-de-sac or pouch of Douglas. So वो pouch of Douglas है वो obliterated दिख रहा है because of presence of adhesions. ये जो flimsy जो tissue दिख रहा है, ये दिख रहा है band of tissues are between ovary and the posterior uterine surface and uterosacral ligament. You can see here. So these are all flimsy adhesions. ठीक है, ये सारे adhesions हैं between tube and ovary and uterus and ovary and uterosacral ligament. तो ये जो ovary है basically पेरी ओवेरियन अधेजन सारे फॉर्म हो चुके हैं यहाँ पे. इवन यहाँ पे जो है ओमेंटम इज स्टक टू द पोस्टीरियर सरफेस ऑफ द यूट्रस एंड कल्डीसेक और व्हाट वी कॉल इट पीओडी और पाउच ऑफ डगलस. यहाँ पे भी एक अधेजन बैंड दिखाई दे रहा है. तुम लोग को भी पिक्चर क्लियर है?
Yes, ma'am.
समझ में आया ना?
Yes, ma'am.
तो ये पिक्चर याद रखना दिमाग में कि क्या है, होता है एंडोमेट्रियोसिस में. ठीक है, तो एंडोमेट्रियोसिस में ये सारे अधेजन्स मिलते हैं. ठीक है, फिर उसके बाद नेक्स्ट स्लाइड में आते हैं कॉमन साइट्स इन्वॉल्व इन केस ऑफ एंडोमेट्रियोसिस. सो मोस्ट कॉमन इन्वॉल्वमेंट happens of pelvic peritoneum and pelvic viscera because of obvious the pathology ना. फिम्ब्रिया से निकल के आ रहा है menstrual blood, तो ओवरी पे डिपॉजिट होगा, उसके थ्रू वो पीओडी में कलेक्ट होगा बिकॉज दैट इज द मोस्ट डिपेंडेंट पोर्शन. सो पेल्विक कैविटी में हमारा जो ये कल्डीसेक होता है, पाउच ऑफ डगलस, यूट्रोसेक्रल लिगामेंट्स होते हैं उसके बाजू में. सो दीज आर ऑल एरियाज आर कॉमनली इन्वॉल्व. सो अभी पेरिटोनियम, पाउच ऑफ डगलस इन एंड अराउंड द ओवरीज, ट्यूब्स एंड ओवेरियन फोसी, then bladder and urinary tract, rectovaginal septum and within the bowel. These are the sites involved. And other uncommon sites but much rarer, they include lung, brain, skin and scar tissue. This is the diagram showing various sites of endometriosis. This is the ovary के पास है, फिर then peritubal, ovarian fossa, this is pouch of Douglas है ना, फिर ये bladder के पास है, bladder endometriosis. This is somewhere else in the pelvic peritoneum, umbilical endometriosis. This is laparotomy scar endometriosis. Then this is anterior cul-de-sac endometriosis. This is again bowel involving sigmoid colon. ठीक है, bowel surface. So now how the disease presents. So basically classical जो presentation of endometriosis होता है, that is a triad of patient coming to you with history of chronic pelvic pain, deep dyspareunia, that is painful this thing intercourse, and dysmenorrhea, severe dysmenorrhea, which develops especially after pain-free menses. The patient who was previously menstruating and did not have significant dysmenorrhea, but now she is coming with complaints of severe dysmenorrhea. So this is the in the background of subfertility or infertility. So basically when you get this triad, you should always get suspicious that this may be a case of endometriosis. Then other symptoms which are often associated with long-term means chronic endometriosis and severe endometriosis. So it may present with cyclical bowel related pain because of bowel involvement. When bladder is involved, it will lead to cyclical cystitis or bladder pain, suprapubic pain and hematuria. There will be subfertility, chronic fatigue and dyschezia. Dyschezia basically painful defecation. It happens in case of very severe endometriosis when there is involvement of rectovaginal septum. So talking about extra pelvic endometriosis, as its name suggests that there is extra pelvic involvement. So most common site of involvement are colon, rectum. So what happens with each menstrual cycle in a cyclical pattern, the person develops painful swelling which is palpable. So when it happens in cyclical pattern, then one should get suspicious about endometriosis. Another site of involvement is lungs. So pulmonary endometriosis will manifest as pneumothorax, hemoptysis during menses. So it is basically particularly cyclical in nature, which is related to menstrual cycles. Then one should get suspicious about this endometriosis. Another organ involvement is umbilical endometriosis, which will be presenting as palpable mass in umbilical area with cyclical pain in the mass. So talking about now clinical examination finding, this was all like what we can dig out from patient history. ठीक है, फिर the second segment is always you confirm your history with examination finding, correlate with your examination findings. So in case of mild or asymptomatic cases, you will be hardly getting anything clinically. But in case of severe disease, few certain signs are there with which you can suspect that there may be a severe endometriosis inside. So in many cases, no abnormality, as I told you, mostly it happens in cases of mild to severe or early endometriosis cases. What about on local examination over vulva, vagina, cervix? they are rarely involved, but yeah, they are still they, in few cases you can still see visible bluish nodule in cervix or lateral vaginal fornixes or vaginal mucosa. And in fact, you can get some lesions over the episiotomy scar site also, what happens in case of excar endometriosis, which we call it. So such local examination should be properly done to get the hint about possibility of endometriosis. Then I was talking about certain possible signs which are present in case of severe deep infiltrating endometriosis. So what you will be getting, endometriotic implants जो यूट्रोसेक्रल पे डिपॉजिट होंगे, तो वहाँ पे it will form a nodule, palpable painful nodule during the menses or something. Even if it is persistent, it will be there all the time. So you will be feeling uterosacral or cul-de-sac nodularity, and if there is a fibrosis, underlying fibrosis, so it will lead to puckering of the vaginal mucosa or vault, and uterosacral scarring will, if it is there is adhesion formation or obliteration of pouch of Douglas, the posterior fornix may appear shallow or obliterated, and there will be cervical displacement also can happen. So there will be because of adhesions or obliteration of one of the fornix because of adhesion formation. So cervical displacement can happen, vaginal wall puckering you may get palpable painful swelling or nodules, you may be able to feel in rectovaginal septum, you may be able to feel pelvic mass in the basically some adnexal mass through pelvic examination or vaginal examination in one of the fornices. In case of unilateral or bilateral ovarian cystic enlargement, so which happens in case of ovarian endometriosis forming chocolate cyst. So in more advanced disease, uterus may be fixed retroversion, and mobility of tubes and ovaries may also get reduced because of adhesion formation. So clinical examination may have false negative result. Doesn't mean if you're not getting any sign in clinical examination, patient doesn't have endometriosis, because only most definitive gold standard way of diagnosing endometriosis is biopsy confirmation of suspicious lesion which are seen laparoscopically. So only on the basis of clinical examination finding you cannot diagnose endometriosis. अभी तक का सब क्लियर है तुम लोगों को?
Yes, ma'am.
ओके ठीक है. नाउ कमिंग टू क्लासिफिकेशन, देखो ये बहुत एग्जॉस्टिव दिया हुआ है तुम्हारी बुक्स में. आई थिंक तुम लोगों ने शॉर्ट्स पढ़ा होगा. सो देयर आर 2 टाइप्स ऑफ क्लासिफिकेशन विच आर प्रेजेंट क्लिनिकली. जो पहला वाला क्लासिफिकेशन 1985 वाला तुम्हारी बुक्स में दिया हुआ है, वो अमेरिकन फर्टिलिटी सोसाइटी क्लासिफिकेशन है, विच आई विल बी शोइंग यू इन नेक्स्ट स्लाइड, बट आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू रीड द होल क्लासिफिकेशन बिकॉज इट इज गोइंग टू टेक लॉन्गर. And another classification was proposed in 1997 by ASRM, which is given in our books. ठीक है, पीजी बुक्स में है. तो इट इज दे हैव क्लासिफाइड डिजीज इनटू मिनिमल, माइल्ड, मॉडरेट, सीवियर. और ये मैं ये स्लाइड रीड नहीं कर रही हूँ, यू कैन रीड इन योर बुक्स. सो क्लासिफिकेशन, सबसे पहला जो AFS क्लासिफिकेशन तुम्हारी बुक वाला दिया हुआ है, दिस इज हाउ दे हैव classified the endometriosis depending on the organ of involvement, depth of penetration, size of the lesion. ठीक है, so or POD, obliteration, partial or complete. There are so many things to look for. Basically you can do this classification. Basically this is surgery based classification है. ठीक है, तो you have to do the laparoscopy, then only you can comment upon, you can stage the disease. So there is nothing like clinical फाइंडिंग बेस्ड क्लासिफिकेशन. ओके, मतलब एग्जामिनेशन बेस्ड क्लासिफिकेशन ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. तो यू हैव टू डू दिस इज काइंड ऑफ सर्जरी बेस्ड क्लासिफिकेशन, सर्जिकल फाइंडिंग बेस्ड. एंड हियर यू कैन सी वी हैव दे हैव गिवन सम स्कोर्स to classify the disease severity. So stage 1, 2, 3, 4 depending on the score. So my minimal, mild, moderate, severe. So this is the another classification which I was talking about, minimal, mild, moderate, severe endometriosis, and they have defined the disease. So optimal way, I already taught you that only definitive method of making the diagnosis is via laparoscopy followed by histopathological confirmation of biopsy tissue. So prior to laparoscopy, obviously we don't jump for surgical. So whenever you are asked, you have been asked in your exams, you should not jump for surgical. Something you have initially you should talk about non-invasive methods of diagnosis. So your answer should always start from your clinical examination findings, which I already taught you. There are certain signs which clinches your diagnosis towards severe endometriosis, which are present in severe endometriosis or long-term endometriosis. So first thing will be the clue to diagnosis will be your clinical examination finding, and then you have to confirm your findings with aid of imaging. So imaging mein we use ultrasound and MRI. So basically we don't jump for MRI directly. So ultrasound may basically in case of ovarian involvement where we can see chocolate cyst, there only we can make diagnosis of endometriotic cyst or endometriosis. Otherwise peritoneal disease is not cannot be picked up on ultrasound. Even adhesions also we cannot see on ultrasound. Serum CA125 level may be mildly raised in case of endometriosis, but it is not a specific investigation for endometriosis. Therefore, it is not a diagnostic tool. So this is the picture I am showing you. Again, the best method to examine Edi-Nexa is transvaginal sonography. So in transvaginal sonography, basically it helps in detection of ovarian endometriosis, which usually present in case of advanced disease, but it cannot image pelvic adhesions and superficial peritoneal foci, which I already told you. The characteristic ultrasonographic feature you see in case of chocolate cyst or endometriotic cyst is cystic lesion with crisp echogenic capsule. Here you can see this cyst is there and there is echogenic capsule is there. The whole thing, though it looks like a solid lesion, but it is not solid. It is basically filled with all internal low level internal echoes, giving the cyst ground glass appearance. So if these ultrasound features are present, it gives you sensitivity of more than 90% and with 100% specificity for endometriotic tissue, endometriotic cyst diagnosis or ovarian endometriosis diagnosis. So this is the another picture in the upper half of the slide. This is the endometriotic tissue. You can see here, this is the ovarian tissue with a few follicles. You can see here in the periphery of the cyst, and this is the uterus. This is the uterus, this is endometrial cavity, and this is the another cyst in the right ovary. So right ovary, it is not looking like endometriotic cyst. It has got some anechoic portion also, so it doesn't look like. Endometriotic cyst usually have homogeneous distribution of all echoes. Okay. Now MRI, so basically it is helpful in differentiating endometrioma with other cystic ovarian masses or neoplastic masses. It is found to be superior to TVS in detection of peritoneal implants. This is the added advantage, and it is also helpful in diagnosing rectovaginal disease. Okay. So I already discussed about CA125 level in endometriosis. So serial measurements may be useful to predict the recurrence of the disease after therapy. Once you have done the after basically combined medical and surgical treatment, when you are again suspecting your patient is again becoming symptomatic and you can see something on ultrasound, so you can just go ahead with serial CA125 level to see the rise in the level. So then accordingly you can treat the patient and it will help you defining recurrence of disease. So as I already told you, the diagnosis of endometriosis basically invasive and surgery based. So standard technique is doing it by laparoscopy, and where we can directly visualize the pelvic cavity and we can establish our diagnosis. Characteristic findings which we get in laparoscopy is typical powder burn or gunshot lesions on serosal surfaces of peritoneum. These lesions may look black, dark brown or bluish as a bluish nodule or a small cyst containing old hemorrhage surrounded by variable degree of fibrosis. However, biopsy for histopathological confirmation is very essential to confirm the diagnosis. So this is how it looks. You can see here this bluish thing. You all can listen to me.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ओके
Yes, ma'am.
ठीक है. तो ये ब्लूइश जो स्पॉट है, दिस इज एंडोमेट्रोटिक स्पॉट बोलते हैं, पेल्विक पेरिटोनियम पे जो दिख रहा है. ये वाला जो दिख रहा है बेसिकली इट इज लुकिंग लाइक अ फ्लैट लीजन. ओके. और जो यहाँ पे दिख रहा है, यू कैन सी द एलिवेशन, सरफेस एलिवेशन इज देयर. सो एलिवेटेड पैल्पेबल मतलब नोड्यूल जैसा दिख रहा है. अब ये पिंकिश है, but this is again endometriotic spot. ऐसे ये nodular जो swelling है, this is called endometriosis. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Now talking about ovarian endometriosis, so the features are the cyst size usually remains below 12 centimeter, and there will be adhesions to pelvic side wall or broad ligament. Endometriotic spots can be seen on surface of ovary, and also on opening the cyst wall we may found basically we may not actually it is always present. So there will be tarry, thick chocolate colored fluid content. You can see here, यहाँ तो ये थोड़ा रेडिश दिख रहा है, अदरवाइज ये आई थिंक ऑलरेडी ड्रेन्ड आउट है. दिस यहाँ पे जो दिख रहा है, दिस स्ट्रक्चर यू कैन सी, दिस इज पोस्टीरियर सरफेस ऑफ यूट्रस, दिस इज फंडस ऑफ द यूट्रस, दिस इज फेलोपियन ट्यूब. यू कैन सी यहाँ पे कोई नॉर्मल टिश्यू अलग से आइडेंटिफाई नहीं हो रहा है फिम्ब्रिया का. और दिस इज ये जो है बेसिकली ये पूरा जो है ये ये ओवरी है, उसमें सिस्ट दिखाई दे रहे हैं, दिख रहा है तुमको, ये है और ये सब जो ऐसा होता है ऐसा नहीं दिखता है. दिस इज ऑल यहाँ पे फाइब्रोसिस हो चुकी है. तो ये सारा जो टिश्यू है, पेरी ओवेरियन अधेजन्स है, अधेजन्स यहाँ पे भी प्रेजेंट है ब्रॉड लिगामेंट से. सो दिस इज लेटरल वॉल से अधेयर्ड है दिस ओवरी. और यहाँ पे दिस इज लाइक हाउ इट लुक्स आफ्टर ओपनिंग द सिस्ट वॉल. सो दे हैव ड्रेन्ड आउट द चॉकलेट कलर जो सिस्ट होता है वो सब निकलता है. चॉकलेट कलर्ड फ्लूइड कम्स आउट ऑन ओपनिंग द सिस्ट वॉल. सो दिस इज द लैप्रोस्कोपिक व्यू ऑब्वियसली. Now talking about management, the first and foremost is like a step is like to relieve the patient pain, because most common जो complaint होती है that is pain. So pain के लिए analgesics like how we give in other diseases, we can always give them analgesics. And secondly, analgesia basically, and with hormonal things also we give here. So I will discuss later. So and second thing is like where the diagnosis is in suspicion, or suspected and patient is not so symptomatic, we can start empirical treatment with simple hormonal therapy rather than going for invasive diagnosis by laparoscopy. So not all cases of endometriosis needs laparoscopic diagnosis, because it is kind of surgery for a patient. So ऐसा नहीं बोलना है कि हर patient को you will subject to laparoscopy. ठीक है. तो फॉर सर्टेन पीपल जहाँ पे तुमको बहुत ये ज़रूरत नहीं है, पेशेंट को इनफर्टिलिटी की कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, शी इज जस्ट कमिंग टू यू विथ माइल्ड पेन और समथिंग लाइक दैट, when you are suspecting clinically कि it may be a case of endometriosis, you can just give your empirical treatment rather than going for subjecting each and every patient for to undergo laparoscopy. मोस्ट अदर ट्रीटमेंट्स जो रहते हैं शुड फॉलो अ लैप्रोस्कोपिक डायग्नोसिस. के अलावा जो मेनली जो मेजॉरिटी ऑफ पेशेंट ऑफ एंडोमेट्रियोसिस दे कम विथ infertility. So for infertility treatment you may have to undergo laparoscopy. Okay. And secondly क्या होता है, it can be diagnostic as well as operative. तो दोनों चीज़ें हो जाती हैं. infertility enhancement जो surgeries होती हैं उसमें it forms a part of surgery. ठीक है. दूसरा क्या होता है कि if the patient is where the medical therapy has been failed, और वहाँ पे then you can go ahead with laparoscopy and you can take some certain decision or radical surgeries you may perform. So this is the basically we are going to discuss all these drugs, and it forms like medical management is all about hormonal therapy. So combined ocipils, progestogens, danazol, GnRH agonist, basically they are the mainstay of hormonal or medical management of endometriosis. This is the I think this diagram I've taken from Novak. So basically in nutshell you can just remember this chart. So this is about medical treatment of endometriosis associated pain. The usual duration they say at least 6 months you have to give the therapy, and it is basically medical management based on progestogens, anti-progestins, and GnRH hormones agonist. So these is basically ये सारे मैं I am not going to discuss in detail later on जो dosing है और जो drugs हैं. फिर next slide is like how does it act, like progestins, the mainstay of treatment. So it is used in symptomatic cases of endometriosis. So basically how it works, it inhibit endometrial growth, presumably it also inhibit endometriotic growth, inducing decidulization, and will subsequently will lead to endometrial atrophy or atrophy of the endometriotic spots. So in high doses it can also inhibit gonadotropin secretion from pituitary. Therefore, it can induce amenorrhea. So it has been effectively used for pain associated with endometriosis, like dysmenorrhea, dyspareunia, intermenstrual pain. The common side effects are nausea, breast pain, weight gain, irregular bleeding, depression, breakthrough bleeding. So progestins which we use is commonly is like medroxyprogesterone acetate in the doses of 20 to 100 milligram daily. We can give injectable DMPA 50 milligram, 150, sorry, typing error hai. This is 150 milligram every 3 monthly. Okay, DMPA जो हम लोग देते हैं, और हाई डोज 100 milligram daily for 6 months, complete remission in 50%. Norethindrone acetate 5 to 15 milligram daily, Megestrol 40 milligram daily, and LNG IUD, particularly useful in cases of deep infiltrating rectovaginal endometriosis when used for 12-month duration. So talking about GnRH agonist. So basically what the mechanism of action, what happens when we maintain a constant blood level of GnRH agonist, it will have, because as its name suggests, agonist मतलब क्या होगा, वो GnRH receptor के साथ bind करके over the anterior pituitary, it will initially stimulate the receptors, will lead to increased release of gonadotropin. So this is called as initial flare response, and it will be followed by down regulation of receptor, because if the constant blood level, because what happens, GnRH agonist जो receptors होते हैं basically, they work in pulsatile manner. But if we are giving certain hormone in constant fashion, it will lead to down subsequent initial flare of response के बाद there will be down regulation of receptor. So there will be a state like hypogonadotropic. Finally, the pituitary work will reduce. There will be less release of gonadotropins or FSH-LH in the blood, and it will lead to low FSH-LH, low estrogen or low ovarian secretion of estrogen. So will lead to hypogonadotropic hypogonadism-like condition. Also, we call it pseudomenopause or medical oophorectomy. So there are no effective. So there will be no effective gonadotropic ovarian stimulation. There will be no estrogen. So it will lead to subsequently amenorrhea, and it will prevent the new peritoneal seeding, and it will also relieve pain. So long-acting GnRH agonists are leuprolide, neferelin, goserelin, buzerelin, triptorelin. The significant side effects are because of it all happens because of hypogonadism. So like what happens in case of postmenopausal female, like hot flushes, there will be mood swings or irritability, there will be bone mineral depletion, which becomes significant with 6 months of use. Progressive vaginal dryness because of mucosal atrophy and decreased libido. So to beat this bone mineral depletion, basically to treat this condition or to prevent this condition, basically we have to give some treatment in form of, we call it ADVAC treatment regimens or ADVAC therapy. So ADVAC therapy, basically it is basically meant for prevention of bone mineral depletion. There are certain regimens available. So most commonly used like low dose combined estrogen progestin regimen. So basically it is based on estrogen threshold hypothesis. Basically what we want, bone mineral density maintain करने के लिए we need estrogen. So in low dose, you may question like this is estrogen dependent condition and still you are giving estrogen. So but it can again aggravate the endometriosis. But what happens, they have hypothesized that there is estrogen threshold. Certain estrogen threshold is required to aggravate the endometriosis or to stimulate the endometriosis. So in low dose, it doesn't cause endometriosis to grow. So we can use safely estrogen in low doses for basically preventing this bone mineral depletion and leading to fracture tendency. And other regimens which are available for this bone mineral depletion treatment or prevention, the progestenolone, tibolone, bisphosphonates, and SERM or aloxifene. So now now I'm going to skip next few slides faster because I'm not going into detail. This progesterone antagonist जो है basically they work based on their anti-proliferative effect on endometrium without the risk of hypoestrogenism or bone loss that occurs with GnRH treatment. So it is better than GnRH therapy. And mifepristone can be used in doses of 25 to 100 milligram daily for a few months for endometriosis related pain. And onapristone is again investigational drug. Danazol again we don't use in clinical practice. It is hardly used. I've never seen danazol being used for treatment of endometriosis because of its significant side effect profile. It has got prominent androgenic side effects in form of weight gain, fluid retention, decreased breast size, acne, oily skin, hirsutism. So this is kind of side effect profile is not acceptable to many females, majority of females. Therefore, it is not like very much used, not very popular drug. Gastrinone again, the side effect profile is lesser than Danazol, but still it has also got some side effects. So this is also not very commonly used drug. Aromatase inhibitors are investigation under trial drug. So we have not used yet in our practice, but it results in the anastrozole when it was used, it resulted in hypoestrogenism, pain relief after 2 months of use. So now talking about combined oral contraceptive pills, so continuous administration it leads to pseudo pregnancy like state. So that is effective in reducing dysmenorrhea and pelvic pain. So this finishes our medical treatment portion. Now talking about adjuvant procedures, basically we have just read in etiological section that there is the most popular theory behind endometriosis related pain is neural irritation. So what happens? So what we do here is a pre-sacral neurectomy or laparoscopic uterosacral nerve ablation, also known as LUNA. We use it in management of dysmenorrhea and severe central pelvic pain, which was not responsive to medical or previous surgical treatment for endometriosis. So it is not the first line of treatment. Okay, so you have to understand this. You should never utter as a very first treatment line. You have to actually, when you have already used your medical and previous surgical treatment or surgical thing, then only you should proceed when the patient is not getting relief from pain. So pre-sacral neurectomy, what it does, it interrupts the sympathetic innervation of the uterus at the level of superior hypogastric plexus, whereas LUNA involves the destruction of mid portion of uterosacral ligament. So still it is also under trial. Not more trials are available to recommend this treatment as a first line. So you have to just keep it as an option, but not tell as a first line of treatment. So now coming to surgical management. The goal of surgery is to excise all visible endometriotic lesions and associated adhesions, peritoneal lesions, ovarian cysts, deep rectovaginal endometriosis, and to restore normal anatomy. So when we do laparoscopy, we treat peritoneal endometriosis by excising the lesion or by cauterizing the lesion with bipolar cautery or laser coagulation or spot fulguration. So we cauterize the area with the help of bipolar cautery or laser. Then to treat ovarian endometriosis, superficial one are fulgurated when we are just getting endometrial spots over the ovarian surface. We just fulgurate the tissue, and when it is a small, well, less than 3 centimeter cyst, the cyst contents are aspirated and irrigation is done to remove the as much as the endometriotic tissue as possible. When the lesion is large, more than 3 centimeter, aspiration is done, as well as the cyst wall is also excised to prevent from the ovarian cortex, to prevent the recurrence of endometriosis again. Because if you will leave behind the cyst wall, it will lead to, again it will the endometriosis may recur. So you have to remove as much cyst wall as possible, and you should send it for histopathological confirmation of disease to prevent recurrence cyst wall. And sometimes when it is because it is sometimes it is not possible to remove all the cyst wall because of presence of dense adhesions to the adjacent structures, which may be some vessel, some lateral pelvic wall may, there are important nerves are there and vessels are there, so you may ureter is also there, so you may injure all. So you should not be, you cannot do very aggressive surgical management. So whatever part you can safely remove, you should remove that. And if the some tissue is remaining behind, it may lead to ovarian remnant syndrome. ये थोड़ा तुम पढ़ लेना फिर से डिटेल में. Ovarian remnant syndrome, basically what happens even after the surgical removal of all these things, patient may again come to you with some pain. It may because of recurrence of endometriosis, ovarian or in remnant ovarian tissue. So now coming to laparotomy, so basically it is reserved for advanced disease where laparoscopy is not feasible and fertility conservation is not necessary. Now about surgical management, wherever you have opened or you are doing laparoscopy, it should not only be diagnostic. When you are finding adhesions, you should remove you should try to remove adhesions as much as possible, so to relieve patient pain. And preoperative hormonal treatment can be done especially in cases of severe disease to reduce the vascularity and size of lesion. Oophorectomy may be needed in the severe cases where it is not possible to remove only the cyst or something. Sometimes it is badly ovary is badly adhered or something to the cyst, so hardly you are not able to identify, then you may go ahead with the oophorectomy. Hysterectomy also, it may be required in severe disease where the patient has completed her childbearing function and she has been not responding and she is not responding to medical treatment. So post-operative, in such cases where you have removed her ovaries, obviously you will have to start them on hormone replacement therapy. So this is how it looks during surgery. You can see here, this is ovary with ovarian cyst or chocolate cyst here. ठीक है, यहाँ पे देयर आर adhesions और ये cyst थोड़ा ये क्या है, इसको cyst wall जैसे we have opened the cyst wall, this is the emergence of chocolate, thick chocolate color fluid, looks like chocolate syrup. तो ये है this is very suggestive of endometriotic cyst or chocolate cyst. So this is the diagram basically I've taken from your Shaw's, so you can all read. अभी तक हम लोग उसको डिटेल में डिस्कस कर रहे थे. तो this is how like we manage the case of endometriosis in all asymptomatic patients with minimal endometriosis. They just need to be kept under observation, and the infertility should be investigated if they come with infertility subsequently. All symptomatic cases, like I told you, initially we have to start with medical treatment. So drug treatment, we have discussed all these in detail. And another treatment modality of choice is like laparoscopy, which is going to help you in confirming the diagnosis of endometriosis by doing histopathological confirmation of biopsy tissue. And these are the things we do laparoscopically. And then surgery, laparotomy, basically they are talking about open surgery. So open surgery mein basically what we can do, like chocolate cyst removal, salpingo-oophorectomy sometimes, and hysterectomy with unilateral bilateral salpingo-oophorectomy, excision of scar endometriosis. This covers all whole management of endometriosis. So this is very good diagram to remember. Obviously, because this is a kind of disease which recurs in approximately 20 to 50% of cases after 5 years of treatment, so they require follow-up, and chronic pain management and fertility input may also be required. So this is the small video about how the endometriosis happens and what does it do with you. So I think we can skip this slide because of shortage of time. So now coming to adenomyosis. Okay, so adenomyosis, you can see here in the diagram, this is your uterine cavity, and here it is the endometrial lining. So here it is invading this endometrial basalis layer, and it is going into the myometrium. This black thing is like endometrial tissue going invading the basal layer and involving the myometrium, forming the cyst-like structure or myometrial cyst. Okay, so and you can see there is a local thickening also, है ना. यहाँ पे ये दोनों walls हैं, lateral wall, they are asymmetrical. यहाँ पे ये normal दिख रहा है, यहाँ पे it is looking little thickened. So asymmetric thickening of myometrium. So now we are going to discuss in detail. So basically it is ectopic nest of endometrial gland and stroma within the myometrium, surrounded by reactive smooth muscle hyperplasia. Okay, so it is common, it affects women of all age group, but more commonly presents in 4th to 5th decade of life. It is a common cause of dysmenorrhea, menorrhagia, and chronic pelvic pain, but often underdiagnosed. So this is a uterus cervix I showed you, and this is how it looks on ultrasonographic examination. This is basically transvaginal sonography, and you can see here uterus. This is anterior surface, this is posterior surface, this is pouch of Douglas, and here it is the endometrial cavity, which is not looking in a line. It is not a linear endometrial cavity. You can see there is the posterior bulge is there, okay, which is caused by posterior thickened asymmetrical myometrial myometrium. So this is all because of posterior adenomyosis. Okay. Now we can see here there are shadows, linear shadows are there. Linear shadows because of presence of myometrial cyst. So this is the uterus, how it looks after. This is the specimen after obtained after hysterectomy. You can see here there is no distinct capsule, which usually is present in case of leiomyoma or fibroid uterus. You can just see there is a thickened nodular swelling in the myometrial, basically swelling or thickness. So the uterus is obviously bulky. So this is adenomyosis, and it looks like diffuse adenomyosis. So pathophysiology, as I told you, there is basically abnormal invagination of basalis layer of endometrium into the adjacent myometrial layer. There is no intervening layer between myometrium and endometrium. So basically it invades and starts growing inside the myometrium. And it can be, the disease can involve uterus diffusely, myometrial diffusely, or it can also have only focal involvement. So for workup or investigation, basically ये largely it remains clinical diagnosis. Adenomyosis definitive diagnosis can be only made by histological examination. So histopathological examination usually is done after in the hysterectomy specimens when we remove the uterus. Right now we have not been doing myometrial biopsy in our practice. So the basically laboratory studies, because it commonly present with heavy menstrual bleeding, so our investigation start with routine blood investigations like doing CBC and other investigation which may be needed to rule out anemia. You have read, I think you are aware of palm coin classification. Are you aware?
No, ma'am.
पाम कोइन नहीं पढ़ा है तो बेसिकली तुम लोग जब भी एबनॉर्मल यूट्राइन ब्लीडिंग पढ़ोगे वहाँ पे पाम कोइन क्लासिफिकेशन आ चुका है तुम्हारा. तो पाम कोइन क्लासिफिकेशन में जो पाम का ए है PALM, तो ए स्टैंड्स फॉर एडिनोमायोसिस एज अ वन ऑफ द कॉज फॉर हेवी मेंस्ट्रुअल और एबनॉर्मल यूट्राइन ब्लीडिंग. तो ये ऐसे प्रेजेंट करता है. तो बेसिकली लेबोरेटरी इन्वेस्टिगेशन से वही इन्वेस्टिगेशन करनी है जो तुम्हें AUB में करनी होती है. देन इमेजिंग, कमिंग टू इमेजिंग, यू हैव टू डू ट्रांसवाजाइनल सोनोग्राफी और सोनोग्राफी. Basically you will start with ultrasound image. I have already shown you how it looks on ultrasound. And second thing, when you are confused between, because what happens, it can be diffuse adenomyosis involving full whole myometrium of the uterus. So it will lead to generalized bulky uterus. ठीक है. तो वो generalized bulky uterus it never grows beyond 12 or 14 week size. Maximum जो size रहता है वो usually it remains below 12 to 14 week size. So that is going like you are going to find in your clinical examination also. It will be a tender bulky uterus. Okay. And you will not be able to feel any localized swelling like what you feel characteristically in cases of fibroid uterus. अलग से एक मास फील हो सकता है. तो फाइब्रॉइड यूट्रस और फिर दूसरा चीज़ होता है समटाइम्स बिकॉज दूसरा जो इन्वॉल्वमेंट होता है एडिनोमायोसिस में, इट कैन बी फोकल इन्वॉल्वमेंट. फोकल इन्वॉल्वमेंट जब होगा तो जैसे हमने एक डायग्राम देखा था उसमें सिर्फ पोस्टीरियर वॉल में दिख रहा है या कुछ एक फाइब्रॉइड जैसा वो स्वेलिंग होता है, लोकल स्वेलिंग होता है. तो इट कैन यू मे गेट कंफ्यूज लाइक विच वी कॉल इट एडिनोमायोमा बोलते हैं जब वो फोकल एडिनोमायोसिस को. ठीक है. सो देयर आर टू टाइप्स ऑफ एडिनोमायोसिस. या तो वो डिफ्यूज एडिनोमायोसिस होगा इन्वॉल्विंग होल यूट्रस, और इट कैन बी फोकल एडिनोमायोसिस फॉर्मिंग एडिनोमायोमा और फाइब्रॉइड लाइक स्वेलिंग. तो उसमें क्या रहता है, नाउ यू हैव टू डिफरेंशिएट बिकॉज मैनेजमेंट दोनों का डिफर हो जाता है. तो ये मायोमा या फाइब्रॉइड है या फिर एडिनोमायोमा है, ये ज़्यादा अच्छे से जो अल्ट्रासोनोग्राफिक बेस्ड डायग्नोसिस हो सकता है या फिर वी कैन गो हेड विथ MRI बेस्ड डायग्नोसिस. सो विच इज़ सुपीरियर टू अल्ट्रासाउंड इन डायग्नोसिंग, इन डिफरेंशिएटिंग लियोमायोमा फ्रॉम एडिनोमायोमा. ओके, वेयर द डायग्नोसिस इज इन क्वेश्चन एंड यू हैव टू डिसाइड बिकॉज एडिनोमायोसिस का एज सच कोई ट्रीटमेंट नहीं होता. पूरा जनरलाइज इन्वॉल्वमेंट है. यू कैन नॉट रिमूव द यूट्रस इन द पेशेंट हु इज विलिंग फॉर फ्यूचर फर्टिलिटी. ओके. जिस पेशेंट में हु हैज कंप्लीटेड हर चाइल्ड बियरिंग फंक्शन और उसको अभी कुछ मेंस्ट्रुअल फंक्शन भी रिक्वायर्ड नहीं है, उसका एज भी ठीक ठाक है, मतलब यू कैन रिमूव हर. इट इज़ नॉट सो अर्ली लाइक वेरी यंग एज पे भी रिमूव नहीं करना होता है. तो यू कैन जस्ट देन गो अहेड विथ हिस्टेक्टमी एंड देन यू कैन सब्सिक्वेंटली confirm your diagnosis by doing histopathological examination of tissue. But in case of infertility patient, the diagnosis you cannot confirm. So it is basically sonography based diagnosis होती है, clinical diagnosis होती है, या फिर we can just confirm our findings with doing MRI. So MRI is not the first line investigation. Obviously, in certain confused cases where the diagnosis is in confusion, where you can do. Okay. So this is, you can see question mark sign, and this is sun ray appearance. तो ये जो डिफ्यूज ये रे दिख रहा है, इट इज ऑल बिकॉज ऑफ प्रेजेंस ऑफ स्मॉल स्मॉल मायोमेट्रियल सिस्ट होते हैं छोटे छोटे, ठीक है। यहाँ पे भी दिख रहा है, दिख रहा है, ये छोटे छोटे सिस्ट दिख रहे हैं, सब एंडोमेट्रियल सिस्ट, ठीक है, ये एंडोमेट्रियल कैविटी है। हाँ, ये जो दिख रहा है ये नेबुथियन सिस्ट है, ये सर्विक्स है, ये यूट्रस है, यहाँ पे एंडोमेट्रियल लाइनिंग है, एंडोमेट्रियल लाइनिंग के जो नीचे दिख रहा है, बिकॉज ये यहाँ पे जो दिख रहा है दिस इज सब एंडोमेट्रियल मायोमेट्रियल सिस्ट होते हैं ये, ठीक है। तो ये यहाँ पे थिकंड है, यहाँ पे जो वॉल है एंटीरियरली थोड़ा थिकंड दिख रहा है, और ये वाला पोस्टीरियरली थिकंड दिख रहा है। मोस्ट कॉमन जो रहता है पोस्टीरियर इन्वॉल्वमेंट ज़्यादा कॉमन होता है, तो यहाँ पे पोस्टीरियर वॉल इन्वॉल्वमेंट की वजह से जो एंडोमेट्रियल कैविटी का शेप है, इट हैज़ बिकम समवॉट लाइक क्वेश्चन मार्क लाइक, ठीक है। समझ में आ रहा है तुमको क्वेश्चन मार्क कैसे हुआ, ये ऐसा फिर ये ऐसा, ठीक है, तो ये क्वेश्चन मार्क है।
Yes,
So this is and there is a anterior and posterior myometrial wall asymmetry also. You can see यहाँ पे ये कम दिख रहा है, ये ज़्यादा दिख रहा है thickness में. So this is very peculiar feature of adenomyosis. Okay. फिर दूसरा क्या होता है मेडिकल थेरेपी, अगेन अबाउट ट्रीटमेंट। बेसिकली मैंने तुमको बताया था कि जो क्लिनिकल एग्जामिनेशन में यू विल बी गेटिंग टेंडर बल्कि यूट्रस, so you should then suspect adenomyosis. Okay, or patient will usually present with congestive type of dysmenorrhea, heavy menstrual bleeding, or sometimes like repeated IVF failure or infertility in the background. फिर दूसरा क्या होता है, बिकॉज एडिनोमायोटिक यूट्रस जो रहता है ना, उसके एंडोमेट्रियम इज नॉट वेरी फेवरेबल फॉर इम्प्लांटेशन, एम्ब्रियो इम्प्लांटेशन के लिए, बिकॉज ऑफ सम changes in the hormonal milieu at the local level, it becomes less favorable for implantation. It will leads to then infertility. समझ में आ रहा है? और दूसरा है तो हाउ डू वी ट्रीट द डिजीज? तो बेसिकली NSAID इज मेनस्टे इफ द पेशेंट इज कमिंग टू यू विद पेन, सो सीवियर क्रैम्पिंग पेन और डिस्मेनोरिया ट्रीटमेंट के लिए दे आर वेरी इफेक्टिव. OC pills and high dose progestins can be given, okay, Depo-Provera वगैरह. Then HIFU and uterine artery embolization, there are certain indications you just read in detail because the class has already gone beyond time and it is kind of two topics clubbed together, so both are kind of big topics only. So तुम्हारे बुक में बहुत शॉर्ट में दिया हुआ, आई थिंक दिस मच शॉर्ट इज ओके फॉर यू. यू जस्ट नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड द प्रॉब्लम, द डिजीज. अदरवाइज लोग कैंसर में एडिनोमायोसिस और एंडोमेट्रियोसिस लिख के आते हैं, तो मेरा डिटेल में पढ़ाने का मतलब ये था कि यू शुड नो कि दीज आर ऑल बिनाइन कंडीशन, दे आर नॉट मैलिग्नेंट कंडीशन. ओके, एडिनोमायोमेक्टमी फोकल एरिया जहाँ पे फोकल इन्वॉल्वमेंट होता है, बट ये भी बहुत कॉमनली यूज नहीं होता है बिकॉज वी डोंट गेट द प्लेन, बिकॉज देर इज नो प्रॉपर कैप्सूल. सो वो क्या होता है कि कई बार कैविटी ओपन हो जाती है एडिनोमायोमेक्टमी करते करते, और बेसिकली जब भी हम यूट्राइन वॉल पे कोई सर्जरी करते हैं, इट इज़ गोइंग टू मेक दैट वो डिफेक्ट वहाँ पे बन जाता है, वहाँ पे यूट्रस वॉल वीक हो जाती है. सो पेशेंट यदि फ्यूचर प्रेगनेंसी प्लान कर रही है तो दैट एरिया इज ऑलवेज प्रोन टू गिव अवे. सो वहाँ पे रप्चर हो सकता है. व्हाट हैपेंस इन सिजेरियन केसेस में भी सुना है ना तुमने, रप्चर यूट्रस. सो द सेम थिंग कैन हैपन विथ एडिनोमायोमेक्टमी ऑल्सो, और इनफैक्ट इन केसेस ऑफ मायोमेक्टमी. ठीक है. दूसरा क्या होता है, हिस्टेक्टमी. Again, I told you it is only considered in the cases where the medical therapy has failed, the patient is no more desirable of future fertility, and is having heavy menstrual bleeding, which is not responsive to medical treatment. So basically, then hysterectomy is the solution for those patients. Okay, so I am concluding the talk. Shashikant?
Yes, ma'am.
Any questions? तुम लोगों को, सारे लोग, किसी को कुछ समझ में